So sometime back I rebuilt another steering rack, and this one has the Adwest control unit on there, and after a few months it started leaking from the torsion bar in the control valve. So the only way to replace that torsion bar in that thing is to separate it. Now here's a sample one, an old one. This actually is for a right hand drive car, and the one on there is a left hand drive car. And what you have to do is separate the two halves, and the book manuals say whatever you do, do not disturb this screw. Now the problem is there's no way that you can get the torsion bar off this. You take the pin out, but it's not going to slide out of without taking this off, and so you have to undo this bolt, this little screw. Now this screw, apologize, has an off-centric head on it, and what that does is, let's put this back in here if I can. Oh, let me stop recording and I'll put it back together. What this screw does is, as you turn it down, it has an eccentric head on it, and what it does, if you can see carefully, it moves the two parts closer together and brings them apart, if you can make that out. And I was able to find a website from some fellow, and I will mention his name, I'll write it down in there, who works on Jaguar steering racks, and he had something similar, and we were going back and forward and explained how to test this, how to adjust it and put it back together. So what he says you do is you reassemble the unit, you put it back into the cover, and the Stag one has a hole there, which is a little plug that goes in. And what he said, the way to test this thing is you apply air pressure in the input, and you block off the two lines that go to the rack, these to the rack, and this is the outlet that goes back to the power steering pump. And he said what you do is you apply compressed air into the system, and what will happen is, I won't do it because my compressor will make too much noise, you won't be able to hear me, is that air will come out of this because these two are blocked. And now what you do is you hold, you can see I got the gear at that end anchored into the device. You rotate the top part clockwise and anti-clockwise from its rest, and what will happen is that it'll block the flow of air reached through this system, and the pressure gauge will start to go up. So what happens is you adjust this to I've adjusted it all the way fully, and it only has about less than 180 degrees of turn before it goes in the up position all the way to the down position. Now the one in the vise is actually all the way down when I've tightened it. And what you have to do is adjust that screw less than 180 degrees so that you get a balance of the airflow. So what I did was I put it at, set it at 3 psi, and what I noticed is when I did it one way it went from 3 to 6 and more, and then but when I did it the other way it went from 3 down to some number, and then it goes up. So I spoke to this guy, I emailed him and I said, oh, I've noticed this, and he said you need to adjust it. So I have now adjusted the screw, and in this case you can see it's sitting at sort of 7:05 approximately. In this particular case the screw can actually go the opposite way. It's more or less at the other end actually. It's almost close to the 180 position. And so that's where I'm going to put, I know now what I have to do is take it apart. I have to make a note of where that screw position is, and that's easy enough because it's almost near the bottom. And then take it apart, undo the screw, Loctite it, and then put it back in at approximately that position. And that should take care of the steering rack when you assemble it together. So that's the plan that I'm going to try. As mentioned, I'm going to give credit to a guy and send his website over, and he's a very nice chap who's been telling me how to test it. So if you do have a steering rack with the old style Adwest control unit, this is one way to get it to work, apparently. So I'm going to try it. I hope it will work, and I'll let you know how it goes. I hope you can hear me, but I'll show you how it's working. You can hear air coming out of the system. When I turn it one way, it wants to block the passage. When I turn it the other way, it wants to block passage. Now it does, in this case, go a bit deflect more in one direction than the other, but maybe it could be the one. I'm not really putting new seals in there. I think it should be okay. But I think what could be, as long as it's not going down, I should be okay. Before adjusting it, as I said, the gauge went down, and that was not right. So I adjusted it using the setup, and I'll let you know how it goes.